There is a new betting favorite to win the national championship. And, Zach, it's pretty hard to see who's going to beat the Ohio State Death Star when it is fully operational, which it was on New Year's Day in the Rose Bowl, a dominant 41-21 win over Oregon. That is Zach Boren. I'm Austin Ward. This is the Podcast Daily, and it's a bonus Boren Blitz because we've got to talk about the game, and we could not wait until Monday. Zach, I'm sure you've got some feelings about what happened on Wednesday.
Well, first off, Happy New Year, man. What a way to start. Yeah, what a way to start 2025. But it's a full-blown freight train coming down the tracks, and it is hard to slow down. When this Ohio State football team is clicking on all cylinders, my God, they are special. There isn't anyone in the country that can compete with them. And, I know there's so many storylines, especially this morning about Oregon having the layoff. They look slow to start the game. I just think this Ohio State football team is this special. And we've been talking about it all year, how the offense and defense and special teams have never truly clicked all in the same game, and how special this team could be and what it could really look like when they all start clicking. Well, we saw what it looked like when they clicked against Tennessee, and it was like, oh man, this could be special. But the hardest part is once you do that in a game, how do you replicate that again? And my God, did they do that against Oregon once again?
Well, I mean, you said it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whenever the bracket came out at this point. Time's running together. Say, hey, if Ohio State wins that first one, look out, because the confidence, the momentum, the fact that it would take a complete game to beat a team like Tennessee, then you carry that over. Again, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to duplicate it, but I think in a lot of ways Ohio State was even better against Oregon than they were against Tennessee, which is a mouthful in itself.
Yeah, we talked about it. There's two things that you want at the end of the year. You want to be the hottest team, which obviously Ohio State is, and you want to be able to play with confidence. And when you have those two things, it's hard to get beat. I think you saw it. It's kind of the same storyline that we saw out of 2014, right? When that team got hot against Wisconsin, then you saw them against Alabama, again against Oregon. It's the same feeling that this team has, right? You want to be the hottest team. That is by far them. You want to have a ton of confidence and be able to play freely. And, man, the swagger is back. You looked at the defense yesterday, the offense. Like, every time they went on the field, there was this feeling of, man, we're going to make a play. Doesn't matter who it is, we are making the play, and that's just so refreshing to see.
Well, it's a complete team victory, Zach. So where do you want to begin? The defense was dominant. The offense carved up Oregon right away. You saw that some of the versatility in the scheme and the game plan again. And they made some field goals, so we can also talk about special teams.
Yeah, I mean, the field goal kicking, but let's start with that because it was refreshing to see, right? Like, Ohio State kicked 2 field goals, made both of them outstanding, right? Check, we're good to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I had talked about this last week. The offense obviously gets this team moving, but my God, the defense is the backbone of this team, man. And we talked about it on the show before this game, is we thought early on how this defense played would set the tone for this game. And the way that this defense has played since the last Oregon game, and then the way they showed out on Saturday, I think the first 3 series were 3 and outs, maybe close to that, whatever it was. The way they played, got after Dillon Gabriel. The first time, Austin, they didn't hit Dillon Gabriel in the first matchup. Did not hit him. And then they had 6 sacks yesterday? 8 sacks? Something like that.
8 sacks.
8 sacks, right? 8 sacks. So absolutely wild that this team went from not being able to touch Dillon Gabriel to then getting a full-blown 8 sacks in this game and hitting him multiple times. It has to start there. That's where this team starts against Texas. That's where this team's going to start. You have to be able to get after Quinn Ewers. But if this defense defense travels, right? And if this defense shows any kind of glimpse of what they've been showing the past couple of weeks, actually the last half of the season, I don't see how there's no way this Ohio State team doesn't win the national championship.
I think it's pretty remarkable, Zach, because we talked a lot about the first meeting with Oregon and the lack of pressure and the re-engineering of the Ohio State defense. And a lot of the second half of the regular season was, how are they going to generate this is it requiring more blitz pressure? Does it require Sonny Styles and Cody Simon and CJ Hicks maybe coming off the bench, Arbel Reese, that you have to insert the linebackers to get that pressure. And I'd have to double back and look, but I know for certain there are multiple plays, even with a 3-man pass rush, where Jack Sawyer was winning matchups and creating sacks when Ohio State did not have to blitz to change things from what happened in the first matchup with Oregon. So I think Larry Johnson deserves a lot of credit for that. I think Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau have elevated their game. A healthy Tyleik Williams changes quite a lot. Ty Hamilton had a great game. But you tell me, it felt like when I was watching it from my vantage point in the press box, like Ohio State did not have to blitz to create pressure, which I think made it even more uncomfortable for Dillon Gabriel.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to bring up is after that Oregon game, I think prior to the Oregon game, Ohio State was blitzing like 24% of the time. And then afterwards, I think that on the year they've been blitzing like 37 or 39% of the time. Forget the exact stat, but it's a drastic change. I don't think Ohio State blitzed that much on Saturday, right? Knowing that this defensive front was getting after Dillon Gabriel and the way they were able to stop the run, how many 3rd and longs they were getting Oregon in. When you're in 3rd and long, you don't have to come after the quarterback, right? You can sit there and play kind of a fence defense is what we used to call it. You get to the sticks, let them make the underthrow, and then guess what? You converge on the ball and it's 4th and 3 and they got a punt. And we saw that so many times yesterday. You talk about the defense front. In my opinion, that is the best those 4 have played cohesively as a unit all year long. Tyleik Williams was a monster all game long. Ty Hamilton played great. Jack and JT played great. Like we've seen we've seen those guys show out individually in games. Against Tennessee, we saw Jack and JT and we said, hey, that collectively, that's the best that they have played together. Well, now you can say that for those 4 guys, right? Those 4 guys, that is the best game they have all played together. And to your point, I think you have to tip your cap to Larry Johnson. I think you have to tip your cap to Jim Knowles. Being able to scheme up defensive formation schemes, calls that get those guys in those one-on-one matchups, and then those guys are making those plays.
Yeah, I don't want to steal all the 3-and-out picks for players of the game, but Caleb Downs was, as advertised, incredible on Wednesday night.
I don't even know how we're going to do a 3-and-out because you could name 7 guys on the defense side of the football. I mean, Caleb Downs, I don't even know how to explain it because what people don't realize is people see the Jeremiah Smith on offense, right? Because it's easy. It's black and white. He catches the ball. He runs with it. He scores touchdowns, right? On the defensive side of the ball, it's hard to see everything because a lot of times when you're making a hell of a play or when you're in proper position, the quarterback's not throwing it that way, right? The team's not going in that direction. Caleb Downs is the Jeremiah Smith of college football on the defense side of the football. I mean, I don't know if there's a better defensive player, and it's crazy to say that Ohio State very well could have the best offensive player in the country and the best defensive player in the country at the same time. Because Caleb Downs is just unbelievable. The way he runs sideline to sideline. Ohio State was playing basically a 3-safety shell the entire game with Hancock, Ransom, and Caleb Downs, and they were letting Caleb just roam the middle of the field, basically daring Oregon to try and throw the football in that intermediate passing area that Dillon Gabriel has just feasted on all year long, or run the football, saying, hey, listen, we're playing basically 3 high, run the football, and Oregon wouldn't do it. Or when they did, Caleb Downs came down and just cracked dudes. If you want to talk about Caleb Downs as well, which we could talk this entire show on Caleb Downs, you also have to give some love to Cody Simon because 0 and 2 all game long. I mean, I'm watching this thing, and after every play, 0 and 2 are right near the football. I mean, every single play. Cody Simon, I don't know, and I've always thought he's a great player. We talked about it on the show, but I don't know if it's like that confidence booster. Something happened later in this year where he has just elevated his game to all Big Ten, All-American level of play. He led the team. He had double-digit tackles against Tennessee, double-digit tackles again, I think 11 against Oregon. Like this dude is playing at an all-time high and playing out of his mind and setting the tone for this entire defense.
Yeah, every big game you can set your watch to it. Cody Simon is going to have double-digit tackles. He's going to make a sack. I thought he had a couple cracks at a pick 6 maybe on Wednesday night that just slipped away. So keep an eye on that one with Texas, because Quinn Ewers at times has been a little careless with the football. We'll get to that matchup when we're done talking about the Rose Bowl. We'll get to that next week. But you mentioned Jeremiah Smith. He broke another freshman record. Chris Carter's 40-year-old Rose Bowl record, single game freshman receiving record. I didn't know that there were any left for Jeremiah Smith to break, but he did it again. And I'm running out of words to describe how good he is. He's the most dangerous player in America. Certainly the most dangerous player that's left in the playoff. He came out of he was talking last week, Zach, about after November 30th going to Brian Hartline and saying, challenge me. And I think that was code for I need 25 targets, and Ohio State's damn near giving it to him.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because that's where my mind goes. And it's I think it's one of those things where Jeremiah Smith said, challenge me to Brian Hartline, but it wasn't challenge me. I think for so long, and we see this with freshmen, and you and I could give 20 different examples of 5-star kids who come in, who flash, throughout their true freshman year, but the coaching staff never wants to put the weight on them of being the go-to person, right? Because when you're a freshman, it's your longest football season you've ever played, right? In high school, you might play 15 games, but it's high school football. And the season in college football is so long. It's so grueling. I mean, it's big matchup after big matchup. The mental aspect of college football is the biggest difference between high school to college. A lot of people say physicality. It's not really physicality. It's not really the speed. It's more so the mental makeup. And once you start getting that confidence, I mean, it's hard to stop. And I think you're seeing that with Jeremiah Smith. And when he went to Brian Hartline and said, challenge me, it wasn't saying, hey, listen, challenge me, like make me a better player. It's challenging me as in, hey, listen, I know I'm a freshman, but you don't need to treat me like a freshman. I'm that go-to guy. Throw the football to me. You don't need to worry about protecting me and making sure that, guess what, mentally I'm going to stay in there. I can put up those numbers and continue to execute at that level where the expectations are being met. Like Jeremiah Smith was like, hey, listen, let me be that dog because I can be that dog, right? Like treat me like that senior that's that go-to guy. And that's what they've done, right? Tennessee, Jeremiah Smith, you're the guy. Oregon, Jeremiah Smith, you're the guy. Like you are seeing that. And guess what? I also think the confidence is showing. Like Jeremiah Smith, the last 2 games, not that he wasn't great during the season, but it's like the last 2 games, he's acting like, hey, listen, I'm that dude, and there's no stopping me, no matter what. I know the coaches are scheming up plays for me. I know the coaches are going to go to me 10, 15 times a game. Like, I know they're expecting me to make those plays, and so now it's on me to make them. And I think that's kind of growing the confidence within Jeremiah Smith. And not that he needs more confidence, but I just think that's what it is. He's starting to feed off of the coaches relying on him and this team relying on him to be that guy that gets the team moving.
Yeah, I think it also really helps that they're finding different ways to do it. You're seeing him line up in the slot. You're seeing RPO looks. You're seeing him come across the line of scrimmage, go in motion, do any number of things, because you can't. Even you could maybe just line him up and let him go beat triple coverage. But if you can help him and put him in spots, that opening touchdown doesn't seem like it's the most complex scheme in the world. But if you get him in wide open space, then look what happens. He goes from 0 to 100 miles an hour in half of a second, splits 2 defenders and scores. Like it didn't take anything crazy. You're just getting the ball in his hands and letting him work.
I mean, you get him the ball in the open field, there's not many people that are bringing him down. How fast he is, and you can, everyone talks about he's a big dude, but I think his speed and his ability to get around tacklers and make people miss, it's so undervalued by people. Like there are so many times that there were multiple Oregon defenders right there. There was a guy who had literally a pursuit on him, and Jeremiah Smith just splits him and goes, I think 44 yards or whatever it was. So it's like, you just get him he's not one of those guys where you have to throw deep and hit the home run ball. You can literally get him the ball on a screen, on a little crossing route, right? We saw behind the line of scrimmage on that first touchdown. Like you just get him the ball and let him do things. He's going to be special and make the big play happen.
What did you think overall about, I don't even know if we can continue to call it a makeshift offensive line, because this is the one that Ohio State has. They did not play a perfect game again. And I think again, that's Oregon has really good players, and they had Jordan Birch out there. There were certainly reps I think that all 5 of those guys would take back, but they won way more than they lost. And I think, again, when we talk about coaches, position coaches, if we're giving credit to what's happened on the defensive line, I think the same thing must go for Justin Fry with what they've done. They don't have Josh Simmons and they don't have Seth McLaughlin. That's been true for a while. But you're seeing a team that's playing with an attitude. And I think this was a point that you made maybe a month ago, Zach. It was like, you don't really care if they just go dominate every single rep. If you lose, you fight back. You have a nastiness, a toughness. And I think all 5 guys that are on the field, even or 6 when they're rotating in there, are playing with that attitude. Oh, got beat, but you go back at it, and they're fighting, and they're tough, and they're leaving with, Luke Montgomery's got a busted lip and a broken nose walking out of the Rose Bowl, and he's still smiling. I think that was all you really wanted.
Yeah, 100%. You just wanted some scrappers, right? At the offensive line, you don't need dudes that are going to dominate every single play, right? Like, you're not looking for Orlando Pace to, 5 Orlando Paces across the board. You're just looking for dudes that are going to scrap and get on edges and fight tooth and nail with hand placement and strain just a little bit harder so the running back can literally have a split more second. So then the guy, instead of having a full shoulder pad and an arm, it's just an arm, and the running back can run through the arm tackle, right? Like, you're just asking for those little things that are gritty. And that's what this offensive line is giving you. By no means did they play a perfect game whatsoever. But the scheme that Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Justin Fry have been coming up with the last 2 games with Tennessee and Oregon is exactly what this offensive line needs. The down blocks, the counters, the pulling motion. They're having fake motion, right? Not fake motion, but fake pulls, right? Like, different things that are messing with the linebackers and safeties' eyes at the second level that are just making them stop for a split second or take the wrong step for the split second. That's all you need with these running backs. And that's what these guys are doing. These offensive linemen, man, like you said, there's all of them would have reps that they would want back. But here's what I do know. I think Ohio State ran for 187 yards, something like that. You can give me the exact stat, but
yep.
What was the exact line?
31 attempts for 181 yards.
Okay.
5.8 yards a carry.
It ran for 181 yards. Okay, there you go. And they also did not give up a sack all game, right? So now you've went Tennessee and you've went Oregon without giving up a sack. But, Donovan Jackson – come on, we should be throwing a parade for Donovan Jackson with going against 2 first-round draft picks in back-to-back weeks and not giving up a sack. Like, Donovan Jackson, man, absolutely stud to go from left guard to left tackle, and I think he's setting the tone for the team. I also think Carson Hinsman is Seth McLaughlin did so much for Carson Hinsman. And I don't think people realize that because Carson Hinsman's playing like a veteran player. And I think he looked up to Seth and he's really relied on Seth to give him so many tips. And now it's making those guards play better. And here's the other thing. Everyone was up in arms talking about a rotation with the offensive line before the Tennessee game. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's working.
Yeah.
It's working.
I have to throw my hand up. That wasn't something that I thought was going to be encouraging or certainly the first choice. But as we mentioned before, like maybe that necessity worked out because giving Tegra a blow works to his advantage. Letting Austin Serveld and Luke Montgomery share some of those snaps allows them to come along at a different pace. So it is working. We can't argue with that part. And they've got 2 more games to go. But before we get on to Texas and move on to Dallas, you got to give us a 3 and out, Zach.
Yeah, listen, we could talk. There are 3 guys, more than 3 guys that deserve all of the roses, right? Guys earn dozens of roses this trip to Pasadena. I think if you truly look at what this team did, the senior leadership, obviously I would love to give the entire senior class, those guys that came back and played well. Like, we didn't even touch on Denzel Burke and IGB, who, we're getting trashed on earlier this week and got trashed in Eugene, Oregon, and the way they stepped up and showed out against that Oregon offense. Like, right? Like, we could talk about those guys. But I think if there's three true guys here, number 3 has to be Will Howard. I mean, I know it's the easy probably out of the quarterback, but guess what? After that Oregon game, the way he played, and then the scrutiny that he faced from Buckeye Nation and the rest of the country sliding with that time left or no time left, and like the fallout after that game, for him to come back and get vengeance the way he did, by all means, like Will Howard, tip of the cap to you, right? Number 2 is Jeremiah Smith. I mean, we've talked about him enough. Jeremiah Smith, my God. I was talking to someone after the game, and it's like so many people want to compare him to Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. And those, in my opinion, are the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL, and I get it. They take over NFL games. Here was my argument. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase had like breakout years, like their junior years of college. Like their last year before they went to the NFL, that's when everyone's like, oh my God, these guys are studs, right? Jeremiah Smith is having that year as a freshman, right? Like what Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase did, their big years in college, Jeremiah is doing that right now. He still has 2 more years left of college, which is asinine. I mean, it's crazy. So Jeremiah Smith is number 2. Number 1, it's a 3-headed monster. Jack Sawyer, unbelievable. Cody Simon, and Caleb Downs. Like those 3 set the tone for this defense at all 3 levels. Those guys led their position groups. That was a lunch pail, hard hat kind of game for all 3 of those guys. They played their butts off. So those 3 guys, man, if those 3 guys continue to play the way they do against Texas and then in the national championship game, there's no way this Ohio State team isn't national champions on January 20th. Yeah,
all those guys were phenomenal. That's why it was 41-21 against Oregon. And it really wasn't that close as the score reflects it. But it didn't matter anyway. A rose is a rose, as they say. And Ohio State is halfway to its goal of a national championship. Getting ready.
And we love roses also.
Absolutely.
We love roses.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
Sunset was beautiful. I'm ready to get back to the great state of Ohio. I don't know if Zach wants to leave. He's got some beautiful palm trees down there in Florida, but we'll be back there soon and getting ready to talk about Ohio State and Texas in the Cotton Bowl next Friday night. This, though, was a Boren Blitz on a Friday for the Podcast Daily. And for Zach, I'm Austin Ward. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you later. See ya.